بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب زدني علما.
So the next thing we'll see how to configure a routing over the DMVPN phase 1. So based on the previous lab, we have already configured the tunnels on the router 1. So we have configured a point to multi-point tunnels on the router 1, whereas on the router 2 we have configured GRE tunnels. So based on the previous configurations, so we do have a tunnel established between the router 1 so we do have a point to multi-point tunnel. So we do have a tunnel from here to here like this, and on the router 2 we do have a point to point tunnels. So because we have configured the GRE over there, and the IP address we are using 10.subnet here. So next thing, we'll try to configure a routing. So I'm going to use EHRP 100 to provide LAN to LAN communication. So let's advertise the routes. So I'll go to router 1, router EHRP 100, advertising your 10.network as well as your 192.168.1.network. Okay. So let me just copy paste this configs other side. So on the other side also, I need to just change the network ID in the LAN. So on the router 2, 10.network and 2.network. 10.network is your tunnel subnet and 2.network is your LAN. So similar way, let's go to router 3 as well. On the router 3 it is 3.subnet, and on the router 4 it is 4.subnet. Okay. So now now you can see here there is a neighborship here. Just to verify, we do have neighborship if I verify the tunnel configurations. But if you go and check on the router 2, you don't see the neighborship. So basically the issue is, if you remember in the basic examples I discussed, we need to add additional configurations here, because by default this tunnel interface, they don't allow the multicast messages to go. So basically there is a problem here. So multi-point GRE doesn't allow. So in order to allow that, we need to configure a specific command, like we need to specify IP NHRP map multicast dynamic. So basically the dynamic means I'm saying the multicast hellos which are being sent by EHRP for neighbor establishment, it should be sent to all the dynamic neighbors, because I don't want to be specific. You can specify like this. So this is one additional command we need to configure on the router, on the hub router. But whereas on the spokes, we need to configure map multicast. So basically here we are not using dynamic, and the reason because we just have a point-to-point tunnel here. So there's no way you get a dynamic neighbors. You have only one neighbor peer establishing a tunnel that is only with router 1. So we need to specify that particular address. Okay, so this is one thing we need to do in order to ensure that the routers establishes the neighborship, whether it is OSPF or EHRP protocol. So this is like a common configuration for all the routings. So I'm going to configure this on all the routers just to finish it off. Okay, so on the router 2, 3, 4, I have configured this. So now let's go and verify the neighborship again to just confirm the neighborship. So neighborship is up. So I just want the neighborship should come up here as well. So let me just flap the tunnel interfaces, because sometimes in your virtual environment. So let me just quickly shut down the tunnel interface and make it up. And I should expect the neighborship as well, hopefully. So the tunnel interface is up here, and also the neighborship here. So let me do the same thing on the other routers as well. Okay, so shut down the tunnel. Just flap the tunnel, okay. So let me do it on the router 2 and router 4. Okay, so now I should see the neighborship is being established between the routers. You can see here if I say show IP EHRP neighbors on all the routers, and even the neighborship is stable here. And if you verify the route exchange, if I say show IP route EHRP, you can see this 2-dot network, 3-dot network, they are coming from individual spokes, that is router 2, router 3, router 4. So if you just want to confirm the reachability from LAN to LAN, we can use some ping packets as well as 3.3, as well as I can use 4.4, that is router 4. And if you check on the router 2, again, if I say show IP route EHRP, you can see the routes are coming, but again only 1-dot network is coming. So if you see here, there is a 1-dot network. So the 1-dot network is coming here, but not 2-dot network, and but not this 3-dot network or 4-dot network. So let me see on the router 3 also. Let me see if I'm getting the routes from there. You can see on the router 3 also I'm getting only 1-dot network, but not the routes from the other spokes. So let me just confirm the same thing on the router 4 as well. So basically the problem here is the split horizon rule. So if you know the basic routing options, so in the basic routing options there is a concept of IGP split horizon rule, and it is actually a method of preventing the routing loops in distance vector protocols. So basically this rule says that an update sent on one interface, okay, or you can say an update received on one interface, so I'm receiving the update from the router B, should not be sent back on the same interface. So that's a simple split horizon rule. So the same thing is actually happening here as well. The spoke, the 2-dot network, in our case, let's say this is a 2-dot network. So this routing update is being sent to router 1 because there is no direct spoke to spoke tunnels established, and the router 1 is trying to send back the update to this interface, but as per the rules that's not allowed. So basically the split horizon rule says that when you're receiving an update from one interface, so I'm receiving on tunnel interface, so I'm not supposed to send back the update on the same interface, that is the same tunnel interface. But actually this tunnel interface is also going to other spokes as well. So basically this is what the problem. So to fix this, in case of DMVPN, we need to make sure that this rule is disabled. So we have to disable the split horizon rule to ensure that whatever the routes coming from the spokes should be sent back to the other spokes. Now to do that, we will be using a command called no IP split horizon rule. So this is something we configure on the hub, saying that the split horizon rule should be disabled for EHRP 100. So once you do this, you should expect the routes will be coming. So basically you should see the routes, and also there should be a spoke to spoke communication as well. Okay, so let's go and disable this. That was the problem here. So I'm going to tunnel interface and I'm saying no IP split horizon. We need to be specific for EHRP. Now once I disable, you will see the neighborship will flap. So basically once you make changes, so now if I verify once again, it goes into graceful restart, and now you can see I'm able to see the routes from 3 and 4. So which means if I try to check the reachability from router 3 spoke to spoke, you can specify the source interface as well. Even I'm able to reach 4.4. Again, if you try to trace, so basically the packet flow is via hub only, so there's no direct communication because we don't have a spoke to spoke tunnel established, but you can see the route exchange is completely via hub, and also the communication goes via hub only.